I guess the other aspect, because my core business is delivering professional learning to teachers. Part of what I'm trying to do is plan for succession and behave in a way that actually does me out of future work.
Right.
And so part of that is harnessing them with some, like, I call them devices, sort of inverted commas, but just tools that they can go back and just engage an audience. And often like an audience of doubting Thomases.
Yes.
With blood sugars are low at 3:30 in the afternoon. So things like wikis and Scratch. Another aspect that I presented that was a real hit was the amazing array of mathematical content or content useful for maths teaching as a either stimulus or as a vehicle for students to upload evidence of their learning in YouTube.
Right.
And then showing them how to use one of many websites, and this one was zamza.com, where you just put the URL of the YouTube artefact, put in the format that you want it, whether you want it for an iPod, a mobile phone, or a QuickTime movie clip to just reside on their hard drive. And then you just pump in your email address, and it just emails you a link to then download the YouTube footage in that format, whichever you choose. And that kind of led us on to a bit of a discussion about how many schools, almost, by default ban the use of iPods and mobile phones, and yet, generation, what are we up to, Y?
Yes.
Soon Z. That's a core part of their lives, and what we need to do is be looking at ways of making that absolutely front and centre of their learning experience, and actually harnessing it as a way of delivering media to them, to students.
So in a sense here we have some fairly significant constraints sometimes in the education systems in terms of what the internet capacity, or what capacity of the internet can actually be used by the students. As you say, that there's limitations being put on it. But in a sense what you're doing is providing, with the demonstrations and the materials that you were using in your presentation, a greater range of tools that the teachers can use, and to think about ways in which they can change their teaching to a more contemporary sort of approach to match and motivate the needs and the interests of the students.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just amazing. I just did a search on quadratics inside YouTube, and there was an array of everything from a teacher at a blackboard, with old-fashioned chalk, going through deriving roots of the equation, through to artefacts of student work, where they had obviously done a unit on quadratics, and then they were going out looking at where they apply in industry and nature, and just even something simple as a skateboard jump or holding a hose, McDonald's signs. So
this YouTube is obviously a lot richer than I imagined. I thought it had a range of things that were more fun and play rather than things that could be used in the classroom so much.
And it also creates a pressure point in that most jurisdictions have banned it.
Yes. Because
of the antics of Paris Hilton and company. And that's a real shame.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I made a point is, I think collectively as a group of teachers we need to argue strongly with good evidence and background of why teachers need to have access to it. One girl in the group who hadn't got around to putting broadband on at home was now going to race home and sign up for broadband so she could then start downloading content and then tailoring it for her classroom.
Matt, there seems to be a lot of material that you were working on sites that people could visit when they go back and start to implement things in their classroom. I just wonder, were there other resources that you would like to direct people to, or you think could be useful in terms of taking the ideas that you talked about back into their classroom?
It's sort of one of those things. You can swamp people with 1,000 websites. I think in a way, I handed out a double-sided sheet that had a variety of other tools like collaborative, whiteboards.
Yes.
One of them was Illuminate, which is a sort of enterprise-level sort of tool. But another one was Thinkature, which is just like a collaborative sort of space where people can work on stuff from a distance. We had a bit of a discussion about that because the kids that are in our classrooms now, more and more, by the time they get out into the workforce, many of them, particularly in white-collar sort of settings, are going to have a skill set of working effectively from a distance.
Right.
Often much earlier in their careers than you and I might have to do or do. And I think these sorts of tools need to be actually factored into schooling and not restricted to just mathematics.
Sure.
But it might be, two children sitting in different areas of the school, just capturing their interactions and actually using that as evidence of their learning. So maybe one child explaining to another, how to find, say, area of irregular shapes. Yeah. And it could be, as trivial or as profound as need be. So in terms of, documenting those, I mean, I'll upload that document to the summer school space.
So we'll certainly add it to the website for the summer school.
And I guess the other sort of push that other line that I tried to push was it's really important to be part of a community at a range of levels, both local, sort of state or territory level, and also national and international.
Yes.
And two groups that I find particularly useful is a Macintosh Educators Users Group, which is across Australia, obviously very Mac focused, but I get a lot of leads on innovative tools out there in the Web 2 and also software. But also the Australian Association of Mathematics Teachers National Listserv. And I would say about 80% of the participants had never heard of it. They'd heard of WAMT. And I guess the way of illustrating that was just to sort of tell them a quick little story of having lost a data set on the ages of Oscar winners, males versus females, after a hard drive failure, not realising that I didn't have it, and waking up at 6:30, wanting to use it in a workshop starting at 8:30 that day, and just putting out a call. And within the hour, 3 people from elsewhere in Australia had responded with the data set attached. And that sort of generosity, as well as just people sharing things that worked for them, I think is a good indicator of just how powerful communities are.
Yes, I think that's right. I mean, you don't have to be isolated as a teacher. I mean, we have geographic isolation to deal with, but even being close to other people, if you're not collaborating and working with people, you can miss out on a lot.
Yes.
And as you say, there's a lot of generosity and collaborative endeavour that people are willing to get involved with, and that's important. Matt, I think we probably need to finish up there, but thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for the information you've shared today.
My pleasure, and thanks for the invitation to be here. It's been a real pivotal time in my own learning, and that's I've really appreciated it.
Great.
So thank you.